All right, we're playing some more stuff. It's a replay between me, everyone's favorite human boy. It's me versus LS Black, Skaven versus Wood Elves, and Black Knight. He's a filthy abuser of the meta, an absolute meta slave. This actually does make a point I've been talking about a little bit. If my tier list video came out by now, then I'd discuss that. But Skaven took a hard dive in the tier list, in my opinion, because with the healing meta and stuff, a lot of people discovered that Skaven can't actually deal with large targets that well. So of course he brought Darthu. Now I have two Jezzails, maybe we'll be okay versus Darthu, but Jezzails are more for killing like infantry these days than big single entities. So of course he's abusing the meta by taking Darthu. But human boy, I don't see any healing supporting Darthu. Didn't you say healing was a key? He's abusing Darthu. Okay. I had to pause because my opponent did mostly Vanguard, so to get the builds done at all correctly, we're going to have to get quick here. 4 Rat Ogres, 1 Warp Grinder to net some things in place, 2 Warp Lock Jezzails to punish infantry or skirmish elements from afar, 2 Poisonman Globes, 2 Warp Fire Throwers, 3 Plague Monks. These little guys were buffed in the most recent patch. They win actually a lot of frontline fights considering their cost is only 650. I think it's 650. I think. Now I'm getting paranoid. Skaven Slaves and Skaven Slave Spears mixed throughout the front line aside from that. And we have a Gracia of Plague with Blessed Filth and Vermintide. Blessed Filth I like. Not a lot of units on the Skaven roster have poison that you would expect. Like Plague Monks don't have poison. Poisonman Globes don't actually apply poison. So no one in my build right now actually applies poison, which does make this spell actually pretty good. 4 Winds of Magic, gives all my stuff poison that I cast it on, and it does cause my opponent's vigor and speed to go down, so it's just nice to spam out that passive. Plus I brought my Vermintide summon, so it is also just a way to use my Winds of Magic in the late game after I use all 5 of my summons. Yeah, it can be pretty good, especially if you are facing Wood Elf Archers or something. Getting poison on your Rat Ogres can really slow them down and stop them from getting away from you or something. Right. For Black Knight, he does have a front line of Dryads, a secondary line of Treekin, including the Firebark Elders, 2 Deepwood Scouts, a Zote, a Zote. Then we have 2 Glade Riders with Spears in the trees and 2 more Glade Riders with Spears in the distance. Plus Darthu with Curse of Honor here, debuff, Flock of Doom, and then his item, the Sword of Death. All right, let's get into it. So already almost in range of my Warp Fire Throwers. Warp Fire Throwers are excellent versus Dryads. Takes half health off that unit, a little bit more than half health on the first volley. And that's really all these guys need to pay for themselves. They cost the same as those Dryads. So taking a Dryad effectively out of the fight already means these guys have done what they needed to do. Is their exact value going to match? Probably not, but effectively they've dealt with that Dryad. Though for some reason they didn't fire a second time. These ones will, but those guys just didn't want to shoot. Throwing out our first summon upon seeing our Warp Fire Throwers. Also, I was dealing with the, oh fuck, oh shit, everybody's in my face all of a sudden moment, because they are, in fact, vanguarding on me. Rat Ogres are going to try and peel off these Glade Riders. My Skaven Slaves are also moving over to do so, but the Poison Globes are mostly going to have to try and defend themselves. As the Grey Seer chucks out Unholy Clamor to give everybody a moment to figure their shit out. And these Warp Fire Throwers have cleared out 2 Dryads for me, so thanks, guys. Thanks, lads. Rat Ogres and Plague Monks now teaming up on the Firebark Elders. Meanwhile, these Globes are going to friendly fire a bit of our own Skaven Slaves and summoned Clan Rats, but all in the service of hitting those Treekin, so it's worth it for me. And Glade Riders trying to get past my Skaven Slaves onto my Jezzails, but then a rear charge from even more Glade Riders is going to really run down those Jezzails and make them regret ever being picked as a unit. Rat Ogres are here trying to peel out, and these other Jezzails are just swarming themselves in as many Skaven Slave bodies as they can, pushing through them to get away from the Glade Riders, who are also beset by Rat Ogres. Where's my net, my Warp Grinder? I definitely delayed them too long. Oh, they did the circle, so they tried to net these guys, but it looks like they were just too slow. Whoops. Deepwood Scouts raining terror upon my Warp Fire Throwers. Didn't even really notice they were in the fight, because again, I got Vanguarded on, and they were stalked during the start, so I didn't really assess that there were any archers. I thought it was a melee rush, so I'm just currently getting shot. Whoops. Rat Ogres continue chasing around these Glade Riders. Zotes, free and clear. They've been big chillin'. I do secure one of my Jezzails and my net. And now start to move Plague Monks and Rat Ogres and everything back into the fight now that I have this little conclave of safety back here. Plague Monks on the front line doing their best against these Firebark Elders, mostly just holding. I love Plague Monks. I think they're pretty good. I don't think they're the best unit in the game, but I do like them. So now I have Glade Riders coming down the hills, more almost dead Glade Riders sailing past trying to get onto my Jezzails. And I have more Warp Fire Throwers that have rallied, and their burnt leadership debuff will probably get rid of these Dryads for me as the Glade Riders of Black Knight get onto my Jezzails once more. I lock these other ones in place with Seismic Snare, allowing the Rat Ogres to get a couple words with them before they run off to disrupt more things and be dicks. Grey Seer is standing nearby. These Skaven Slaves give him some melee buffs and make sure they don't rout that quickly, but also he just doesn't want to be that close to Durthu. He doesn't want to get too close to the Zotes either, so the Grey Seer has a lot of things to look out for. Globes do manage to find their way onto the Deepwood Scouts and get a decent volley onto them. Takes about a third of their HP. More Warp Fire Throwers are coming back. We are rallying some Jezzails, and my other Jezzails have rallied on the high ground. They're shooting at some Glade Riders, trying to protect themselves, because they know those Glade Riders are about to come back, so now just trying to rout them yet again, which they do, but there's more Glade Riders that can finish them off quite easily. I have more Plague Monks, more Skaven Slaves, everybody coming from the forests, returning to me, and these Deepwood Scouts are running out of ammunition. I have Globes and Rat Ogres that are both almost dead, so I know if I turn around I'm just going to rout anyway, might as well get the Deepwoods to use some more ammo on me. Big shots onto Durthu with the Warp Fire Throwers, but the Firebark Elders actually, Black Knight pointed this out to me, they have a fire resistance aura. So that's actually giving Durthu fire resistance in addition to his fire weakness. We're not getting that much damage out. My Jezzails do get routed off. The Jezzails up on the hill are also routed, and Rat Ogres are just trying to make those Glade Riders at least pay for what they've done. Cool. More infantry trying to rejoin the fight. Rat Ogre's trying to rejoin the fight. Zote's at about half HP running over to help Durthu. The Firebark Elders are pushing back all of my weapons teams. Not a whole lot I can do about them at this moment. And bounce power is about even, maybe even what I've favored. It's getting a little spooky. I try to net down the Firebark Elders, but we do fail in that attempt. Whoops. Globes come back. Globes throw very briefly. Globes get routed yet again by the other Deepwood Scout volley. Zotes are fighting my little Plague Monks. And Durthu is trying to catch up to my Grace here. I decide to run away and throw down a Clan Rat summon. My Warp Grinders are coming over to say hello. And what are we going to do about this? My Clan Rats are just going to run after the Deepwood Scouts. I want to put them under pressure or you make them waste their ammo, my Clan Rats. Conclave of Skaven still trying to rejoin the fight. And the Warp Grinders, beset, did they save their damage ability? I don't remember if I saved their damage ability or not. We will see. One of my Skaven Slaves of Spears are murking down the Treekin a little bit, trying to allow these other guys to rally. A full health Rat Ogre comes from the high ground where it used to be protecting that Jezzail that eventually died. The Warp Grinders are trying to get away, so they did not have their damaging ability, but a big charge from the Rat Ogres onto the Zotes. Beep, boop, boop. Get some good damage. Unholy Clamor. And Blessed with Filth. Giving my Rat Ogres poison and more leadership, plus surrounding these guys with these Plague Monks. Overall, life's feeling pretty good for this Skaven in that blob fight as my Warp Grinders have been secured. Jezzails are back. They are firing on the Firebark Elders while Plague Monks and Skaven Slaves charge in. Firebark Elders trying to push through. Jezzails just don't do that much damage versus Monsters Infantry or Cav, though. They do a lot of damage versus Infantry and Artillery pieces. So, unfortunately for me, that muscle memory betrayed me, and actually I just took a Jezzail that can't... My Jezzails were meant to fight, like, Cav and Archers and stuff, but they just don't do any damage to those kinds of things. Rip. Glade Riders are going to rout them off. And Durthu plus his Zotes are taking a lot of damage, and now we have Seismic Snare plus Warpquake. Warpquake is that AoE damage ability, and while these guys are netted, I do charge in some Rat Ogres and get a free, nice big charge on them. Sword of Daith is hurting everybody in this field, though. I do not like it, Sam I am. I do not like Sword of Daith in hand. Warp Grinders waiting for the next cooldown are going to back off. My Plague Monks and Rat Ogres and Plague Monks try and hold down the fort. Deepwood Scouts with no ammunition are rejoining the battle. A Deepwood Scout in the very far distance has 2 shots left. And he is coming back. Skaven Slave Spear is going to get rear charged by Glade Riders, get routed off. It's a scary time to be a Skaven. Everything is routing except for a Skaven Slave and the Migracier and his Warp Grinder team. Oh, the spook. Oh, the magook. Throwing out another Clan Rat summon. It's probably my last one at this point. Nope, one more after that. Clan Rats can easily deal with these Deepwood Scouts as I continue to run away, just trying to buy some time for my Rat Ogres and stuff to come back. Deepwood Scouts get murdered by this sudden spawning of rats. Durthu's a big problem, though. I've probably lost this game just because Durthu exists, and I can't deal with him. Like, nothing left can really fight Durthu in any capacity, which is a big problem for El Scavinos. I do charge him. I bless with filth again to give everybody here poison. The bell continues to toll. The bell continues to ring. Unholy clamor, giving them all leadership. This is what we were waiting for. A big alpha strike. And I get in close because the bell, if you're nearby, also has plus leadership and melee attack. So really trying to buff up these Rat Ogres and all these guys and just keep them in the fight, as a Flock of Doom from Black Knight is going to make them run away. The Wood Elves have rallying forces returning. Clan Rat Summon goes to fight the Firebark Elders for a bit. We're down to 1,000 HP, and there's no healing for them on this map. And Durthu gets his fight with the Grey Seer at last. I'm all out of options. I do just eventually have to have this Grey Seer attack. So the Grey Seer has 35-34 for melee stats. Durthu has 75-48. One problem that does happen for Durthu, I think several times throughout this fight, is like his attack animations for some reason aren't hitting the Grey Seer. So several times he's just going to swing and get like nothing done, which is rather surprising, but okay. I do have Warp Grinders in here. Blessed with Filth on everybody again, because I have the Winds of Magic. Might as well use it. Might as well keep everybody exhausted, even the people that are trying to get Vigor back on the outskirts. We are just getting them down to tired. I think these Dryads will even end up very tired before they get... Yep, very tired before they even get in the fight. Grey Seer's kicking Durthu's ass, and the Warp Grinders are just sitting here. They do have armor piercing. They have magic attacks and stuff. They're going to get hit with the Flock of Doom, but they're biding their time. They're just waiting. They're just waiting until the Dryads and the Treekin rejoin the fight, running into the Warp Quake and the Seismic Snare. That AoE damage shattering off all of Durthu's support, really taking them out. I knew I couldn't fight them in melee, but I could just Warp Quake them down if I got them to come to Durthu's aid. Now the bounce power is significantly against the Wood Elves, as Durthu somehow has been getting his ass beat into the dirt by my Grey Seer. He has just had really bad RNG, also like bad luck with my animations. Whenever I do that weird swing thing, I get really far away from him, and if I am far away from him when he swings, it doesn't connect, which is just really weird. Now Durthu is getting some good hits in. Now Durthu is finally starting to connect. Another Flock of Doom on me and my Warp Grinders. Warp Grinders trying to sit in here, trying to get their fight in with that armor-piercing damage. The Grey Seer hasn't swung in a while. He gets back into the fight, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. A little bound Scorch from my Grey Seer. Tries to do some damage to Deepwood Scouts. Does okay. Does okay. For the rest of the fight, we have some Skaven Slave Spears coming back. Warp Grinders are technically still here. Plague Monks are technically still here. There's a Glade Rider and Deepwood Scouts with no ammo, so both sides are just completely out of everything, as Durthu is putting the smackdown on my Grey Seer for now. Grey Seer was doing well for quite a bit, but it's not going to be enough. I don't believe, unless something crazy happens. Skaven Slaves and the Warp Grinders do take care of those Deepwood Scouts, routing them off. And here we go. Durthu gets Seismic Snared, so he can't move, getting him surrounded by my spears. I give my spears poison, but they still unfortunately tear her out, you treasonous bastards. And then my Warp Grinders, I think they were saving Warp Quake for these guys. Yeah, there it is. So they're not netted, it's just the damage ability, but the damage ability on the way in will get them to rout as they charge my little guys, leaving just the Grey Seer and Durthu. Bounce Power still thinks that Durthu does not have this. I definitely think that he does. I technically have some Plague Monks coming back into the fight, but it's just not going to matter as Durthu beats the hell out of the Grey Seer. Slowly. You can see those attack animations of his, like, just weren't connecting properly. So GG, it was a very good game with Black Knight. He's a good dude. He's usually a High Elf main, but you can only play High Elf once in a best of 3 series. Giselles did okay. They really struggle versus Cav and Monstrous Infantry and single entities, which I just need to remember and get used to, because I'm so used to taking Giselles as like, oh, they're generally fine versus everything. No, they are specifically for infantry and artillery now. That is it. If you use them to shoot anything else, it's usually not worth your time. Rat Ogres did well. They did what they needed to do. Plague Monks hung around and did good stuff. Poison Globes did great. The Warp Grinders did excellently. Warp Fire Throwers did just fine for me. We traded 1 for 1 on Dryads and Warp Fire Throwers, so that's solid. Durthu 3,900. Like, even though we didn't have healing, you could see the concept I was talking about, where, like, Skaven are really struggling to deal with large single entities. Now, Durthu is actually a bad example because he's so slow and tall that even Rattling Gunners could take him out. But if you think about it, if you use your Way Watchers or Deepwood Scouts or Cavalry to suicide run for my Rattling Gunners, that Durthu could just run over the rest of the build. And, like, this build didn't have anything to deal with him. Like, the Giselles were shooting at him for a bit, and it just didn't matter. So, yeah, big monsters into Skaven. If you take out any of their ranged assets, you can just win the game off with that right now. It's fucking brutal. Brutal! Zotes, 1,500 value. Glade Riders and Spears all did pretty well. Firebark Elders did great. The regular Treekin did not. Deepwood Scouts did fine, and Dryads got murdered. GG. Roar. Subscribe, yes, yes.